What's up, YouTube? How you doing? This is Ted Check, longtime newspaper reporter, and this is the second installment of Ask a Reporter. It's where at this point I'm asking myself, but I'm asking you to ask me a question, any burning question that you might have on the media. Why are things done this way? Why are things done that way? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? I think you kind of get what I'm saying here, right? So topic number 2 is the whole notion of if it bleeds, it leads. And do we ascribe to that? And is it actually true? So if you haven't heard the phrase, if it bleeds, it leads, what it means is basically if you have a story that is sensational, salacious, more than likely describing some type of traumatic event, whether it's a murder or a fatal fire or a really, terrible car crash, something like that. If you have some type of story like that, that's going to be, back when we used to have newspapers, it would be at the top. It would lead. It would be at the top of the newspaper. It would be, as they say, above the fold. If you were to fold a newspaper, so we used to have these things called newspapers, but that you could actually hold in your hand. It's a thing, something. But anyway, so if it bleeds, it leads. If it's some type of tragic, traumatic thing that you write about, boom, that's going to be at the top of the paper because that's the thing that people want to read about the most. Is that true? I would argue not necessarily anymore. And this is based on experience, okay? I'm just giving it to you straight here. I mean, it was a phrase, if it bleeds, it leads. That's a phrase that you hear people in the industry say. It's been around forever. You hear people in the industry talk like that. They mention that, if it bleeds, it leads. You hear people saying it in a disparaging way when they're criticizing the media. But I would submit to you that it doesn't really apply anymore. And let me just go back for some background. I remember, I think it was in the 80s, there was a song by Don Henley. Don Henley was I believe he was one of the founding members of the Eagles, famous band, the Eagles. Don Henley had a song in his solo career called Dirty Laundry. Dirty Laundry. And I remember, I can't ever forget, part of the lyrics go, and he was talking about, I think he was talking mainly about TV news, but he said, we got the bubble-headed bleach blonde, comes on at 5. She can tell you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye. It's interesting when people die, we need dirty laundry, or give us dirty laundry. Kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down. Kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down. Yeah, it's burned into my brain, those lyrics. That I think at the time rang true. But as a police reporter, over the decades, for 23 years now, I've seen a shift. And I know, I've had people say to me over the years, why don't you ever report on any good news? What happened to the positive news? And, in the newsroom, we would kind of say to ourselves, well, nobody wants to read about the positive news. Nobody wants to hear about that kind of stuff. They want to hear about the tragic stuff. That's what attracts people. It's interesting when people die, as Don Henley said. But I would submit to you that that has been eclipsed, that the bad news, the negative news, has been eclipsed by, I would say, 2 things. Number 1, news you can use. Things that mean something to you personally and that can help you in your life. That's number 1. And number 2, kind of that water cooler news, which could include, did you hear about that plane crash or whatever? But also just just other news that will show that you know what you're talking about and that you keep up on certain things. Not necessarily sports although that could be part of it. But let me give you some examples. Recently, these are recent examples at my newspaper, at the YDR, ydr.com, York Daily Record. These are some things that have done really, really well, pretty much outpacing any type of crime and emergency news that we've done. One of them was a dude who left the United States. He fled the United States because of all of the debt that he owed for his education. His college debt was so out of control, and I guess he felt he couldn't pay it, that he said, I'm out of here, I'm leaving the country. That is a huge problem. It's a societal problem that people often talk about that. How am I going to pay my college debt? My college debt is my albatross. It's weighing down on me. I'm still paying it off. 10 years later, I'm still paying it off, et cetera, et cetera. So college debt is something that affects a wide swath of people in the United States and probably around the world, but particularly in the United States. So that's something that affects a lot of people. And so that was a huge story for us. Now here in Pennsylvania, a lot of people hunt. So another big story for us was hunting on Sunday. That's something that doesn't go on right now, but I think the story was that that's going to change. That the state is going to allow hunting on Sundays. It may not be a big deal where you live, but it was a big deal here, and it was a huge story for us. That in the state of Pennsylvania, there was going to be hunting on Sundays. You got to eat, right? Well, I'm not going to go off on that. But anyway, another type of hunting or outdoor story that did really, really well for us was the Frankenfish. That is the nickname that has been bestowed upon it's the snakehead. The snakehead fish, which is a fish that has its origins in Asia. And then somebody got the bright idea, hey, I'm going to bring it over to the United States, and I'm going to release it into streams, rivers, lakes, and tributaries. Not a bright idea. It's just an absolutely idiotic, stupid idea. Why? Why? Because it's a predator. It basically just mows everything else down. You go to a lake or a river or whatever, and you think, there's any number of fish I'm going to be able to catch here. Well, it may not be the case anymore because a snakehead just cleans them out. The snakehead eats everything else. It's a predatory fish. So that was a huge story for us, the Frankenfish. Then there was another one that did really, really well. It was that most young people are not physically qualified. I guess it's physically qualified for military service. That's a story that affected a lot of people. Parents wanted to read that story, I'm sure. Young people wanted to read that story. So it's a wide audience, a wide potential audience. And so at my paper, we are not seeing just my stories, the stories that I write on crime. They do well, but they're not like these stories. These stories are just poof, through the roof, kind of, because I have such a wide appeal. And I think people are saying, finally, you know what? Yeah, I just can't handle all of this negativity. I can't handle all of this doom and gloom and all these bad stories about terrible things happening to people. It's just too much. I can only handle a little bit of it. I've got my threshold, and so some of these other stories are interesting stories that actually have or could have a personal effect on people. So if it bleeds, it leads, man. It doesn't necessarily apply anymore, I feel. And we, as a newspaper, have recognized that. Although I gotta say, there is one caveat. We started a gallery of mugshots. This is everybody in the county that has been arrested, whether it's for a DUI, which is probably the most popular crime, either DUI or theft. Those, I would say, are the two most popular crimes to commit in this county, York County, Pennsylvania. DUI and theft. So it's people have been arrested for that. Anything and everything, assault, harassment, burglary, list goes on and on. So we have a gallery every month, and I've had as many as 175, 180 photos in that gallery for one month. We're averaging probably about 150 photos, but I'd say the peak was about like 180. 150 photos a month of people being arrested here in the county. And there's about 450,000 people total population in this county. That is huge. That is very, very popular, that gallery. Because everybody wants to know, oh, am I going to come across somebody that I know? Who's going to be in this gallery? I bet you it's somebody, I bet you I can find somebody that I know. Oh my God, I can't believe they got arrested for X, Y, and Z. So that is very, very popular, the gallery, because you want to know, oh, has my neighbor been arrested? Has my buddy been arrested? Has my employee been arrested? Has my employer been arrested? You people want to know. So there you go. That is, if it bleeds, it leads. Not so much anymore, or I should say, yes, still to some degree. However, news that affects you personally, news you can use, news that you can use to impress other people, or news that could potentially have a major effect on your life. I think that seems to be what is eclipsing the the fires, accidents, and shootings, that type of news. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have a question for me, you can leave it in the comments below. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. I'm all over the place. TEDCzech, TEDCzech. So shoot me a text or not a text. Shoot me a tweet or a Facebook post or Facebook message, whatever. Get in touch with me if you have any burning questions about the media. Why do they do this? Why they don't do that? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I will catch you next time.